Good evening. Welcome to the February 25th, 2026 meeting of the Select Board. This open meeting of the Town of Auburn Select Board is being conducted both in person and remotely, consistent with Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022, which suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed to participate remotely as long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. For the public to join the meeting remotely by telephone, dial 1-408-650-3123 and enter access code 983-263-437. Or the public can join via computer at https meet.goto.com, Auburn Select Board Room. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the town's website. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. Please note that this meeting is being recorded by the Auburn Cable Television. Is anyone else recording this meeting? All right, so please stand if you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first thing on our agenda is the public comment section. Do we have anyone signed up? We do? Thank you. So we have Mr. Largess. Why don't you come on up? There you go.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'd like to reserve my comments until later in the meeting. As things come up, questions for you or...
Yeah, we have two public comment periods, one in the beginning and one at the end.
Okay, so if we have questions on something during the meeting, am I supposed to take and do a whole list of things and at the end take...
You could.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, continuing. No community organizations or presentations of public hearings. Departmental items. The town clerk. We're going to have a board vote to allow opt-in early in-person voting for the annual town election to be held on Saturday, May 9th, 2026, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Okay, do we, and I assume that will be here in upstairs or downstairs here?
We'll do it in the planning board room like we have in the past.
Planning board room, okay. Does anyone have any questions? No questions? Do I hear a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to allow opt-in for early in-person voting for the annual town elections to be held on Saturday, May 9th, 2026, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So next, we have the DPW. I'm going to talk about designating a couple of individuals as special municipal employees per Mass General Law, Chapter 268A, Section 20, for the purposes of snow removal. Okay, great. Do you want to just tell us about this?
Good evening. So we have two employees. One is our new sewer superintendent, assistant DPW director, Peter Boria. That position is typically a special town employee for the purposes of plowing. And then we also have Patrick Montague. He is a former DPW employee. He is now a patrolman at the police department. So if he has some time off, some days off, and if he can fill in at the DPW when, during snowstorms, he was willing to do that.
Okay, great. So this is just because you can't have an employee working in basically two departments, correct?
Correct.
Unless we do this. Okay. Any questions?
How, with the patrolman, how is that managed? Like, does he need to provide hours worked or what his schedule is? I would just hate for someone to be doing that and then need to call in and then put a burden on that. So how is that managed, and how do you track time for the other departments?
So this would be an on-call basis, basically storm by storm. He just reached out to us. He knew that there was a big storm coming, and he asked, we have a couple of, he had a couple of days off. His first priority is going to be the police department. So we would never get in the way of that.
But, so, I guess through the chair, my question, do you have communication with the other departments before asking, or how is that monitored?
So this is sort of uncharted territory. So we would, I guess, this time, he hasn't plowed for us yet, but there was an opportunity where if we had a spare truck, he was available. Unfortunately, we didn't have a spare truck for this last storm, but we wanted to make sure that if, hopefully we don't have any more of those types of storms this winter, but if need be, we would definitely coordinate with the chief to make sure that, there isn't anything that's brewing on his end. Because, like I said, ultimately, he's a police officer, and his priority is the police.
Through the chair, to the town manager, how does that precedent work? Like, I just want to make sure that, like, there might be a need there, but if there's a stronger need in the department that he currently resides in, or she, whatever, I just want to make sure that there isn't like a superseding, and like, there might be a sign-off before asking, is there a management approval to make sure? Because again, while they might be free now, they might not be eligible for their next shift, or they might call in because of the additional hours. So
The chair, I agree with you, and I believe Joanna does as well. It is their top priority to work for the police department. If there becomes an instance where we need somebody and he's available and we have a truck, then we would definitely talk to the chief. We do not want a shift for us to affect any regular shift for a police officer. So that will always be their top priority. We talked about this weekend, sort of just in case. We just want to be safe. If we get people that call in, especially with the last few storms that we've had, we just want to make sure all our I's are dotted and T's are crossed. We may never use him, but if we need him and there's the opportunity and the chief agrees, then we just wanted to get this paperwork done.
And I agree with it. I love the willingness. I just want to make sure that other duties aren't going to slide, or the potential for a conflict arises. I want to make sure that's addressed beforehand.
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I can just sort of piggyback on what Mr. Chambers, I'm happy that he's available. I'm happy that he has the necessary licenses. I just want to make sure that we're keeping in mind not just whether he's working for the police department or working for DPW on that shift, but I want to make sure that we don't get into the point where he's working an 8 or 9 hour storm and then going in an hour later for his shift at the police department, because that's going to affect him, his ability to do his law enforcement, from being tired, from being, out all day plowing, especially if it's overnight. So I just want to make sure that we're keeping in mind. I'm supportive of this. I just want to make sure that you're communicating with the chief constantly, and just keep that in mind.
Yeah, we will definitely make sure that we do that. He would not have his own plow route. It would just be, filling in. And like the town manager said, that it's, hopefully we don't need him this winter, but in case we do, and it just becomes, that he's available, and that's how the conversation started. He reached out, he had a couple of days off, and said that he was available.
Okay, any other questions? Do I hear a motion?
So I'll make a motion to designate Peter Boyer as a special municipal employee per Mass General Law, Chapter 268A, Section 20, for the purpose of snow removal.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No. And do I hear another motion, please?
Make a motion to designate Patrick Montague as a special municipal employee per Mass General Law, Chapter 268A, Section 20, for the purposes of snow removal.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Thank you, Joanna. Okay, next in our agenda then, we don't have any proclamations or recognitions, gift acceptances. We are going to vote to reopen the annual town meeting warrant from Wednesday, February 25th at 7 PM through Friday, February 27th at 1 PM to ensure residents affected by the snow event on Monday, February 23rd have the ability to submit their warrant articles. Okay, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to reopen the annual town meeting warrant from Wednesday, February 25th, 2026 at 7 PM through Friday, February 27th, 2026 at 1 PM.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. All right, so continuing now, we're under Select Board General Items, Part D, Fiscal 27 Budget Discussion and Review. Did you want to say something?
Yes.
Ms. Vecchio?
The chair, if I can, I would just like to brief the board and residents that since last Tuesday when we were here, I did make a few budget changes based on our conversations, and I wanted to let you know that. You've seen the updated documents. These documents are also sent to the Finance Committee. One of the areas that we increased was our capital improvement plan. When we discussed it with the board, we talked to the library, we talked to the school department, and with the school department, they were running about a $100,000 deficit. I worked with Beth over the week, and we were able to increase the CIP 30,000. She was able to find different sources of funding for some of the items that she had in her budget, so we're able to balance her budget. So you have a new school department budget in front of you now that's also going to be sent to FinCom. The other item that was a great idea, the library is most likely going to be going through a transition with the building itself and possible shelving and different things that we're working on right now. And we hadn't put any funding in the CIP for that work. We're looking at donations, we're looking at other funding sources, but it was a very good idea. So I added $200,000 into the library CIP for this year, because one of the recommendations from the state was to have lower shelving in the library, so you have a better sight line. And the shelving should be on wheels, and so they can be moved around versus bolted into the floor. So I did add that to the CIP budget for 2027, so you'll see an increase there. We also added a fire lease for $4,495. The chief can speak to that when he comes up. We increased, now this is a big change. We increased the free cash that we put towards the CIP to $2,839,883, and we decreased the borrowing back down to $895 to keep it $895,000 to keep it consistent with what we borrowed in prior years, specifically last year. We didn't want to add things to CIP and then end up with additional interest because of it. So I can also give you the numbers involved with our free cash, and Karen can as well. The other thing we did is we adjusted a couple salaries. In our conversation last week, we talked a little bit about the clerk's office and how one of the clerks was bumping up against the assistant town clerk, and we had to make a change in her salary or else it would have exceeded. We did look at a couple other positions in accounting and treasurers, and we did increase those $6,958 so that we could stop the bumping up against the position. So we're able to do that as well. So the total net changes of tax levy was $28,344. We still have, let me just see. We still have, so the tax, my proposed budget recommends a tax levy increase of 2.18 of the 2.5%. So it's still under the 2.5% as the board had recommended that I do. and it did address some of the needs that the board had mentioned, and even the dialogue with the departments. It was a good discussion, I felt. So I just wanted to update the board. Everyone has the new documents, Finance Committee has the new documents, and the new documents will be posted online.
Okay, great, thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Absolutely.
What was the increase for the school department CIP? What line item, do you know? It wasn't like bolded or red, so
No,
it wasn't easy
it's
to
for equipment.
tell.
It's 30,000 for equipment that was
30,000, okay.
added. Yes,
And that came out of her
budget.
operating, so you did the thing where you identified that we could use?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. The lifespan was long enough to fit within the CIP plan, so.
So that wasn't a cut of 30,000 from her budget?
It was
just
not,
shifted.
yes.
Thank you.
And then the balance that was left over was about $10,000, and we made that up with tax levy, so that they could have a balanced budget.
So can I just clarify, so that essentially, through this movement and the additional 10,000 for tax levy, that's 40,000, there was a 100,000 difference, where'd the other 60 go?
The school department had worked on their budget and found other funding sources for some of their line items. And they were able to reduce the ask to the town by $60,000.
Do you know if they cut, or did they just find other funding?
I don't know exactly what was decided on their end.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so continuing with our look at the budget, we'll look at the CIPs as we talk to each department. So we have Department 155, Info Technology. Okay, so let's take a look at that budget.
Hello.
Hi. Mike, thanks for coming. What questions do people have about the technical service budget? Infotech.
I don't have an actual question, but I know this was a priority for many of us on the board to get some investment into the IT. So while it's a higher increase than many other departments, I appreciate that this is being funded and invested in. So I'm glad to see, well, maybe not as much as you'd love to have, but it's a step in the right direction in getting us a lot of that much-needed technology, as well as maintaining what we have.
Thank you. Dan, any questions?
Nope.
Sarah?
Nope.
I do not.
You do not? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. All right. Continuing, we're going to look at the ZBA Zoning Board of Appeals. Hey, darling. Hi.
Good evening.
I know I did not have any questions. Does anyone have any questions?
Madam Chair, I just have a question. So I know that with 40B, the Zoning Board of Appeals relied pretty heavily on outside consultants that we were fortunate at the time to get grants to pay for. The pressure is likely going to come back, because I don't think we've met the magic 10% yet. But I don't, and we can't necessarily always count on grants to come in at the right time to provide that. So was there any thought given to providing some revenue or funding to just provide a technical assistance that, you know, to bring in those consultants to support the ZBA, whether it's extra legal work or whether it's 40B experts or something along that line, just to make sure that they have the support they can to move forward?
Sure. Thank you for the question.
Yes.
We have spoken Dory's going to
Okay,
answer.
through the chair, there's been a lot of discussion regarding this, especially when we were putting the booklet together on the 40B process. And we will continue to go for grants. As soon as they reach that ZBA start line, then we can ask for assistance and get grant assistance. The other option we were looking at is actually working with the developer and charging the developer for that charge. I didn't want to necessarily have a line item in there because it's not, I don't feel like it's a charge that we should have to absorb right now by the taxpayer. If it continues to be an issue, I think we can address it, but with a grant at the ZBA level, I think it's probably our best bet.
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair, I do remember one of the consultants said that it was absolutely part of the process, and the developer would have to pay for some of the things. So I think, again, the ZBA, while we're not all experts, has gone through it and has learned a lot. So I don't see our need for consulting as great as it once was, and then I would certainly rely on the developer who is proposing these things go forward.
Part of our LIP manual was to ask when they come in, ask the developer for permission to hire those consultants, so they front-load it versus wait till the first meeting. So there was some thought to making sure that the ZBA would, or any board that needed it, would have that flexibility.
Yeah, no, and that's all well and good. The developer has to pay for traffic peer review, stormwater peer review, and the financial analysis should the ZBA ask for it. They now know to ask for that in the beginning. They don't have to pay for that overall 40B consultant that we got the state grant from. So as long as we're going to be cognizant to apply for those grants right away at the very beginning, then I'm fine with that. And I just wanted to make sure that we did call it out and we did have a discussion to identify the need and make sure we had a plan for when these start coming, because we know that once we're out of safe harbor, there's at least 2 that are waiting to file.
Through the chair to the town manager, do we not still have the person from CMRPC who's helping us a certain number of hours as well for housing-related issues?
So through the chair, CMRPC allows the town to apply for technical assistance. So we can use them as a resource. They have been very helpful. Obviously, we put that ZBA booklet together. We've worked with CMRPC for years on different projects, and they have been more than accommodating. And we're currently have another project going on with the Assistant Town Manager, Mr. Delaquila, that will be starting for economic development. So I think that using them as the resource, I think they're really a great resource.
I thought we were part of a consortium where we paid a certain amount of money and we got a certain number of hours every month. And we were using that, at least initially, for housing. So I'm not saying, is that still in place?
Right, I'm sorry, I think that you are referring to, like, we have a CMRPC annual assessment that we pay for, and that makes it, allows us to be able to utilize their services, so they have an annual assessment.
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I think what Ms. Carpenter's talking about, there was a point where we, along with several other towns, through the CMRPC, I believe, were hiring or putting funds away to hire an employee that dealt with housing, and then we would be getting a certain percentage of hours. And I know that it was vacant for quite a long time. I didn't know if that, I think that's the position you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Yes, so we did have that person, and they were working with us for a certain amount of time. They did attend some of those meetings that you're talking about, and we do pay for that. I think there were, if I had to guess, I think there were about 5 or 6 towns that were part of that housing production, and giving us that sort of expertise. Obviously, there's been some staffing changes, so we can, happy to circle back and provide an update on that, but we can certainly let you know what the status is of that.
I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
Okay. Any other questions, ZBA? Okay, hearing none, let's look at it. Thank you very much,
So,
Darlene.
through the chair, can we move up the solid waste and DDIS?
You want to do that?
Anyone object to that?
Darlene's already sitting here, there's no point in sending her back and having it
Correct.
back.
So I'll make a motion that we move up Section 433 solid waste and Section 511 DDIS.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay, so the first budget we have to look at, okay, is public health. What questions does anyone have?
Madam Chair, I believe solid waste is first.
Oh, I beg your pardon, solid waste. Okay, solid waste is first. Darlene, can you tell us about the contract for
Sure.
solid waste? Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much. So the solid waste contract for hauling is up this year. We have started the process, as the town manager reported, to work with Casella in discussions. We actually have a meeting scheduled this week to kind of facilitate that discussion. There has been a number of things that have happened over the past several years in the contract, and we have made a lot of improvements to the service. The contract we would be highlighting is going to be really the customer service, making sure service is picked up timely, and if there are misses or any service requests, such as carts being changed out, misses on trash or recycling. We just had this storm that just happened, so as a result of that, there's always some overflow that happens from that. So whenever we have a storm or a weather event, we have a one-day delay, there's always some challenges trying to clean up after something like that. The hauler, we want to make sure that they are responsive, and I can honestly say that they are responsive to our needs. So we have a solid waste and recycling coordinator that is in direct communication with them every day. In addition to that, we do have a part-time clerical support in our department. So we have a clerk that floats from finance and comes up to DDIS to help support in that effort as well. Because obviously, we have a fair amount of service requests that come in daily, so we want to make sure that we're capturing those. So we have good support, I feel, for the solid waste program. We do not typically deal with anything that can't be resolved. And we want to make sure that the service provider that we go with in the next contract is going to be focused on service, making sure things are timely, and obviously cost. I think that everybody probably understands with everything going up, in the cost of service and unknowns of what's happening in the world right now, this proposed budget has a 6% increase in it. And that is, we're hoping that is going to cover what we would have for the new contract. So we want to make sure that that's understood, that there's some flexibility in that, but we're trying to estimate that that is going to cover the cost of the new contract.
Thank you. Questions?
So, Madam Chair, through you, are we going out to bid, or are we just negotiating with Casella for an extension of the existing contract?
I think that through the discussions with the town manager, I know that everything's on the table. So we would like to see what the current vendor can provide, but we're also prepared to pivot and look at other service providers.
And do we have, if 6% increase is not enough, given what's going on in the industry, do we have money in the reserve fund? Have we considered money in the reserve fund to make up any differences?
The chair, yes, we have.
Thank you.
I do have a question. So we're negotiating a contract for the collection. Is this also for the disposal?
The disposal, we are still in a current contract till the end of 2027. The contract for WIN, it's, I think everybody knows it as Wheelabrator, but it's actually WIN Innovations. And their contract was put in place approximately just about 20 years ago. So that has current, there's a kind of a consortium of municipalities that are looking at that right now and have looked at what the options are to be able to have a new contract. So we are participating in that. There is a team that has regular meetings, and we are part of it so that when they come up with a recommendation, they know that the town of Auburn wants to be included in that.
Okay, so this, the solid waste collection line is just for the collection?
The collection of trash and recycling,
Yep.
and also the disposal for recycling, recycling processing.
All right.
So the recycling processing costs are based on a formula that is, takes into consideration the up and down of the market for what can be recycled and reused.
Okay, all right, thank you. You mentioned misses, and I understand what those are, but you also use that in conjunction with the contract. Is the contract going to have any consideration? In other words, so many misses would reduce an amount that we might have to pay?
I have seen contracts like that. Our current contract identifies what happens when a miss occurs, and the time that it takes for them to do that. There are some contracts that I have seen that do it's almost like a tally. We do not have that type of contract. It's something that we can certainly look at. I find that we have had, we've had good responses, so we don't typically have to do multiple calls on the same item. If it became an issue, and sometimes it does, I myself get involved, and we go out to a certain site to identify the challenges of maybe, I mean, sometimes it does happen on the Auburn-Worcester line, on a dead-end street. There's 2 houses on that street. New driver, they don't really know the lay of the land. So yes, does that house get missed if staffing changes? Those are addressed personally by myself and our solid waste and recycling coordinator with a management team member from Casella. So
Okay.
those are addressed. It's not that they don't happen, but we don't want them to happen over and over.
All right, well, that's good to hear, thank you. Any other questions? Good, all right.
Thank you so much.
And now the next is health, Board of Health. Well, Department of Health, I should say. Public Health. What questions do people have on this budget?
So, Madam Chair, if I may, I just have, and I know you were here at the last meeting you sat through, so just for the others that aren't, full disclaimer, I'm asking questions when I see sort of percentages that differ than the norm. So I just had a question where a lot of the salary increases we're seeing are 2% or 3%. The Assistant Health Director is getting a 5% raise, and I just wanted to know what was the consideration behind that.
Sure. Thank you for the question. It is something that I always want to look at overall for all my staff. And I know the directive from the town manager and the CFO was that everybody gets the standard 2%. And if we are fortunate enough, we get the 1% COLA. For this particular position, the employee has gone through the past, I'm going to say year plus, several certifications that have increased her responsibility to be able to do more septic, she did not do septic-related work. Now she's able to. It will take several years to get to a level of experience that she can do it all on her own, but it is the next logical step in her position. And quite honestly, what she's being paid now is low. This position, what I'm proposing for the 5% increase, there are other health-related positions with less responsibility. So she's an assistant health director. Health inspectors in other towns in regional positions with a lot less experience are making more than this. So I feel that this is something that I take your comments and the town manager's comments very seriously. I know that you focus on professional development. I encourage all my staff for training, for conferences. What we can't maybe give in salary, we can give in opportunity for education, and that is exactly what this is. So we have to take a look to make sure that employees want to work for the town, and we have to look at salaries. So this is something that I do feel strongly about. I certainly respect whatever you decide, but I think across the board, you could look at a lot of salaries in our department.
Okay, so just to confirm, it was based off of the fact that she's has new certifications. She's doing additional responsibilities as a result, and therefore she's getting more than the typical 2%.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The only other question I have is going in, and as you know, I ask this question of almost every other department. As you just stated, we really did put a big focus on professional development, education of our employees. The education line item is only about half spent so far this year. I think you spent $1,600 of the $3,200. Is there upcoming conferences or meetings they're going to be going to for the rest of the year? I just want to make sure that I don't want any money returned necessarily for education, professional development. I think we want to invest in our employees. And I just want to make sure that across all departments, at least that is being utilized.
Yes, thank you. I did hear that from your previous meetings, and we are at about halfway, a little more than halfway in the budget, and we have about half left in that training line item. There are conferences, usually the conferences, we have a big conference that happens in October, November timeframe. It slows down a little bit for the holidays, and then it kicks back up again. So we have several trainings scheduled from now until the end of the year. And I spoke about the assistant health director's position. We also have a health inspector that is fairly new. He's been here several years, but new in his career. And so we want to invest in him. He's in some state trainings right now, and we expect to have him in another significant training in the springtime as a certified pool operator. So yes, I do plan on spending more in that line item for my people, and I appreciate the fact that you want to let the employees get this training.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, so let's continue, thank you. We'll look at the planning and planning and economic development line. What questions do people have?
So this is more for the town manager. I know it was talked about last time, so dedicated hours for the assistant town manager role, as well as separating them and where that salary lies. I know there's a large increase in this budget, but is any of that salary allocated back for the assistant role rather than the economic, well, the 12 titles that the assistant has?
Through the chair, thank you for the question. It's interesting the way Auburn has budgeted this position, and it does make sense. I was the assistant town manager, HR director, and I was budgeted in the HR office. So it's sort of stuck within my area of expertise. That's why I moved this to this budget. It was originally removed, but because of the area of expertise, we put it back in the planning budget. It is definitely, some days will be 10% planning and 90% assistant town manager, and it can be vice versa. We don't have an actual breakdown right now, and I'm not sure even in the future as we start molding this budget into something even better and more transparent, if we move it to the town manager's budget or not, I'm not really sure, but it will always, at this point, be economic development in addition to the assistant town manager.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I just have a couple questions. With respect to, I know that, that we're hopefully, knock on wood, onboarding a town planner to fill Dr. Menard's position. And we also have an economic development coordinator position that's been vacant. Do you plan on utilizing that one person, or are you going to look to see how it goes and then possibly hire a second person? What's the plan with that sort of, the economic development coordinator that's been vacant for a little bit?
So it's been a topic of discussion for several months now. It is an important position that we need to fill one way or another. If we can find an employee that can do planning and economic development, we may merge somewhat both of them, not their salaries, but some of the tasks. I just don't have, we just don't know yet, depending on, we are interviewing, and actually we have a candidate, we don't have a final answer yet, so I'm not exactly sure. If we do not get a planner that has that type of experience, then we'll definitely hire someone, because we need to maintain the relationships with the businesses and with the Chamber of Commerce. So it's a bit up in the air, but it's an important position.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Questions? No. All right, thank you. So next, we'll look at the energy management. Questions?
So this role was paid for through a grant at one point, and it was dual responsibilities and everything. Is that still the case?
Thank you very much. This is kind of an exciting area in our department. With the support of the town manager, she allowed us to be able to make this position full-time. So as you may recall, this position was Economic Development Coordinator and Energy Manager. And I can say that the employee had identified, being pulled in different directions depending on what the time of year for reporting certain events and needs according to which division. Now that we have this, this is a full-time position, so we did hire somebody in the fall, and I can tell you they are just really have jumped right in for energy management. The tax levy portion that you see here is a portion of the salary, so we get a grant for about $35,000 and change each year. We have it for 3 years. We're in the second year of the grant, and it's a portion of the grant, this tax levy, and then the third leg of that is, comes from Muni Ag, so municipal aggregation. So it's split up into 3, and this position has already, actually, it might be this week. I think it just finished. We've already had somebody in to assess all the buildings, all the municipal buildings, I'm going to say within the past week, to take a look at all of the utilities, what the fuel consumption is, and looking at what priorities are for HVAC, energy use, energy bills, all of that. We have, I don't know if you saw it, I think it's posted in several places. We actually have, for the first time, we have a community event scheduled tomorrow for residents to be able to bring in like their energy bills and come with energy questions regarding their homes to try to find a better way to save on their energy bills. That was something that was identified a long time ago from this board and from the town manager, that you wanted to see more community events that could help the residents in this area. You wanted to have a person that people could talk to, and we have that. And we're excited to really promote it. So this budget, standalone budget, is kind of the first for you to see in DDIS, but we're excited and we feel like the money that we're spending on this position, hopefully at the end of the grant cycle, we can, the savings that we're seeing across the board on the town buildings are going to help support what we would have to put in for the salary.
So I know that was part of the discussion when we went for the grant, so love to see the status of where they stand, and, I'm all for the energy savings, but really, if the position pays for itself, it's a no-brainer, so that's great to hear. I have no other questions on that.
Thank you so much. And you'll actually get like a little snapshot, so that's just kind of a couple of things I'm mentioning, but there's a department snapshot of the energy manager. I know she's already worked on her presentation. She's really excited, and I think that happens in March. So you'll see the energy manager soon.
All right, good, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Energy man, Energy management, no. So next we'll look at the building and code enforcement, please.
So, Madam Chair, if I may, I'm just going to ask a question and relate it to the discussions this board has had relative to Rockland Road. One of the concerns that we hear from the residents is that there's trucks showing up early morning, Saturdays or Sundays, and there's a need for our building commissioner or our inspector to put their eyes on it. They can't use photos or videos, even though they're time-stamped, submitted by the residents. I see that we have $3,400 in OT available. Has there been discussion with those staff members to, I don't want to say do stakeouts, but we know that there's, based on the residents, that there's certain times and days that this is taking place, to have them use that overtime to come in early, stay late, or come in on a Saturday, or come in on a Sunday, so that we can put eyes on that and provide the relief to the residents that they're seeking.
Thank you for the question. So I know Rockland Road has been a topic of many discussions here with this board. I myself have had discussions with our building team. We have a building commissioner and a building inspector. I can tell you they devote a lot of time for this property and the challenges it has brought about. And I also have worked with the town manager. She's been very involved with myself and Mr. Delaquila and our team to come up with a solution for that. One thing I just want to clarify, the overtime line that you see, that actually is GEU overtime. So that's for the clerk that we have. So we have a DDIS clerk that focuses on building needs, and that's for any meetings that they have to attend. So that overtime line item, I just want to be clear, is not for our staff. So our commissioner and inspector, they are salary positions. It's not an overtime position. We all ebb and flow for the needs of the department. And I can tell you that they have come in early, stayed late, and the solution that we are working towards with Rockland Road involves discussions with, direct discussion from the commissioner with the, I'm going to call them the management team that owns the Rockland Road property, the CFO and on-site management, and they have been informed of the resident concerns. We have a spreadsheet for identifying any complaints that come in. Since the manager has identified the actions that have to take place, I myself have spoken with several residents that have identified concerns there, and I think I actually took the calls for the recent holidays, so I think it was New Year's and Christmas Day that they were identifying activity. So as a result of all of that, we have put into place immediate notification to our office. We log it. We are all on a communication loop so that we're all aware if something new happens. And we're working towards identifying a ticketing system. I spoke with the commissioner actually within the past week, and he actually does have a ticket book. The ticket book is filled up, so we're in the process of ordering a new ticket book, but it literally identifies, it's a building official ticket book. so that he can issue citations as needed. So I did hear the needs of the board. It's not something that our staff is not willing to do the work. Of course, we know everything doesn't happen within the town hall hours. That's not how our department works. Most of us work well outside of those hours. I do understand the challenges, and I do understand why the neighbors are concerned, but we have spent a lot of time trying to get solutions in place for this, and I feel like we are moving in that direction. Town manager supports it, and she's supporting us to be able to do that. I hope that answers your question.
Any other questions on this, Bud?
The only other question that I have is if somebody can check my math on the FY 2027 roster for the building commissioner. It says it's a 2% increase, but when I did the math, it looks like it was a 7-point-something increase.
I'm sorry.
So his weekly pay is going from 1,776.35 to 1,917.11. So it certainly didn't look like a 2%.
So there are, go ahead.
Sorry. May, through the chair, just looking at the front page, not the roster, it is a 2% raise. If you look at the roster, perhaps there's a calculation error.
Getting 98,110. And it's going
Right.
up to 100,073.
Right.
Right. So I'm
So
just,
it's 2%. I don't see where he is.
it's just the roster was
There might
carried
be.
wrong.
Yeah, it looks like the new salary is right and the old one is not adjusted. But in the actual budget document itself, it's accurate.
Oh, I see.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions on this budget? No? All right, let's look at the next one, Conservation Commission. Any questions? No? Okay, now we'll look at the next budget, Animal Control. Any questions?
I actually do have a question on
Okay.
the veterinarian expenses. Is that enough? I mean, that's a pretty low number for vet visits. I have pets too, and they're expensive.
Thank you very much for the question, and thank you for noticing. So we have, we do actually have our animal control officer, I'll invite up, and I can tell you that we often go zero in this line item. And so we are trying to balance the needs of handling what operational needs with what's actually happening. So, Tanya, can you explain?
Sure. For a simple answer, no, it's not enough. Last year, I believe I maxed out that line item in one vet visit. I'm sure everybody saw those 3 large, beautiful white dogs we had down at the kennel. When I took them in, they were in very rough shape. So 2 of them, the 2 males, had to go to the vet, and we were already above that with that visit. So it's kind of a little bit of a balancing act of that line with the other lines, and if something's needed at the kennel, sometimes we can't, do everything. I understand everybody's got a budget to follow, so we just get very creative down there.
Sure, but does that come at the expense of your education or travel or meeting budget?
it could. Sometimes I just end up getting things to kind of make up for it. A lot of the animals we've had down there have been through a lot. Unfortunately, some of them are with us a long time, some are very in and out. And it's not something that I bring to everybody's attention. But if we're in need, we figure it out.
If I may.
Oh, no, it's okay.
So one of the, what Tanya is explaining are the challenges for handling an animal control budget. I can tell you it's probably one of the most challenging budgets in the department, just because you don't know what you're going to get. And often we are dealing with vet bills that we have to figure out how to pay. And we have to figure out staffing needs, and there's a whole bunch of things that happen within animal control that I can tell you, like, we look at what the previous years have, but literally, like, every year in animal control, I have changed a little bit in the budget. I can also tell you that Dory has been extremely supportive of us. We sat with her in the fall with more challenges, and she helped figure out how we could support this. One of the advantages of DDIS as a whole, it's a lot of different divisions, but because we're all under one DDIS budget, I can tell you, I sweep something else that, you know, if we have a position that's vacant for a period, or if we don't utilize, you know, all the supplies in one budget, I will take that and prioritize it and do a transfer. So I think you've all, you know, obviously the transfers are public. I have to defend those. But I have done transfers from other divisions to put into animal control to cover those costs. So it is a creative way of doing it. It doesn't happen all the time, but I do feel like having that advantage of having DDIS in all of our divisions, everybody understands, like, even in the department, when somebody needs something, we work together to figure out how to fill it. So I hope that gives you, like, a better sense of how we handle unexpected costs.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do have a question. Is there any way of recouping any of these costs from the animal owners?
So, yes, when the animal is owned, before pickup, the dogs need to be licensed through the town. Any medical bills that were there have to be paid. Unfortunately, a lot of the time, it's animals that are not going back home, animals that come in rough shape, and then we kind of have to work with them. So and the other things we do utilize is we have Tufts Learners Clinic. They do spay and neuters for either low cost or free. So we just did that with that beautiful black shepherd we had down there. We spent a lot of time working with her, getting her back down to decompressing from a very horrific situation. And now she's actually at Worcester Animal Rescue League to find her home. So sometimes it's very easy they can, you know, go to a shelter, a bigger place, and they can get some of the medical care there, which is a very big plus. If other bigger places are full, they do have to stay with us until they are kind of back on their feet. So we try to get creative with where we can put them and all that.
All right, thank you.
So, Madam Chair, if I may, I know the town manager has been very supportive of your budget because she gave you everything you asked for, unlike some other departments. But I know one of the asks was, and I understand the frugalness, I respect it, I understand the the pay Peter, steal from Peter to pay Paul mentality with moving stuff around. But I'm a little concerned that at least in this area, you're significantly underfunded. So I'm wondering, I know the town manager had put out the ask to all the departments, and some of the departments came in with some very huge numbers. And it seems like you came in frugal, but if the ask was made again, and what would the veterinary expenses be, on an average year? What would the kennel maintenance be on an average year? What would that stuff be on an average year that would, cover you without having to move the shells along fast enough so nobody sees where the ball is?
Go ahead.
Through the chair, thank you for bringing this up. I have worked quite a bit with Tanya and Darlene, and we are very supportive of animal control here. I've been working on animal control here since, I think, my very first day with the town of Auburn, and every single day since then. I did give them the whole budget. I am going to speak for the division, and maybe I shouldn't, but I feel like there's some uncertainty as to the amount of support that this particular division has with the public and with the different boards, and probably even different other departments, because it is dealing with animals. Some people don't like animals. I think, and I know Darlene, I've worked with her long enough, I think she is trying to be conservative, to do the best that she can with a limited amount of money, and Tanya's following suit. I can see it all. I could definitely talk to them after this meeting, probably tomorrow, and see if there's anything else that we can do that I can recommend that we do for this division, based on how the discussion's going tonight.
Through the chair.
Yep.
You've never not received funding. Everything's been paid. And you've had tight budgets before, so I don't know if there's a full need to revisit all of that. Because we hear that there's other things that are maneuvered, and if something like training were to be sacrificed, you'd go back and ask for a transfer. So I don't know if we need to reinvent the wheel on that aspect. I do have a question with the backup coverage and the costs being higher than the animal control officer. Can you explain briefly how that works and why it's higher than the full-time role?
Absolutely. So as I said, every year, we have to take a look at what we've been doing and then figure out, is there something that we need to change to improve how things are operating? The backup coverage I have received questions on this before from finance. It has been something that has evolved over the years, and even when we had to talk to the town manager in the fall with the challenges. So animal control is, you can think of it as a first responder type of position, because it's 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Tanya is the full-time animal control officer and animal inspector, and technically, she should be working the town hall hours. That's the furthest thing from the truth. So we have to have backup coverage for her for the off hours. So when town hall closes, we have somebody on for nights. We have somebody on for the weekends. We have somebody on for the holidays, usually multiple people. And then we have to also plan for when those people can't do those shifts. So the backup to the backup. And that's probably the most challenging thing. I can tell you right now, she's actually on call right now. So she is, again, full-time, but she's also filling the needs when we can't have the backup cover. So if people have sickness or get hurt or anything like that, it's a challenging budget. So what you see here is a combination of having coverage. I know it's confusing to see on the roster, but it's trying to break it down into different pieces so that you have an understanding. There's a cost for weekends, there's a cost for holidays, there's a cost for off hours. And then if we have animals in the shelter, then they also have to go and do animal care. There was a time, years ago, when we actually would have an empty shelter, and you wouldn't have to budget for the animal care. I can't remember a time in the past, I'm going to say like 3 years, that we haven't had some animal in that shelter. So it's been a constant. So has this gone up? It has. It had to. We've made changes to it to try to give some relief to Tanya so that this position does not burn out.
I'll have more questions at a later date, but not budget-related, but I'd love to understand the operations of that further and other staffing models, but
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I can just
Sure.
say something. Fully support looking at actuals and making sure that our budgets meet the actual need. But we also have to keep in mind that we are unaware of what the state budget is going to be. We have a second bite at the apple. If every time we see something that might be low in our mind, keep in mind, we have the special town meeting, which we will need to have every year because our budget cycle is totally off the two federal and state partners. So rather than constantly be revisiting the budget, let's look at the budget. I'm certainly fully in support of what you do. It's very important. You know, our pets are, as much part of a family as some people's human children. So let's be mindful that we have a second bite at the apple, and let's look at it. Give staff time. They've spent a lot of time working on this budget to get it where it is. Let's try and find time over the summer in preparation for the special town meeting to spend some time on budgeting so that we can address some of these shortfalls, but also give staff time to actually, do some of the work.
So, Madam Chair, if I may just respond to that. I understand that, and I agree with that. But what often happens is animal control, for example, will come in September as we're going into that fall town meeting and say, we need money for this. And everybody says, we didn't know that. We didn't hear that. Why didn't you say something then? So one of the reasons why I'm asking these questions, and maybe other members are as well, to put it on the table, to make it public tonight, so when they come back in September and say, we were short, you discussed wanting to support us, we need this extra money, here's the whole background. No one can say, we didn't know. No one can say, there wasn't questions asked, there wasn't information provided. We have a duty to go through the budget, to ask these questions, and I'm not saying we're gonna fix every number tonight, I'm not saying we're gonna fix every number in the fall town meeting, but I think it's important that we identify these issues and these concerns during the 2 meetings that we have with this budget, even if it's to set the stage for changes in the fall.
I don't disagree, Mr. Crane. I'm just bringing up a point. I've listened to you without commenting on your point of view. I think I'm allowed to have a point of view that is different. And we've been going through this now you've been on the board almost 3 years, so I think we all understand. But we also need to Someone will say they don't know, because not everybody watches the Board of Selectmen, not everybody's going to take time to watch the Finance Committee, and not everybody's going to take time to watch town meeting. So there's no prophylactic against people who are willfully not wanting to know what's going on with their money. But I'm just bringing up a point that we can't constantly be adding funds to the budget after they've spent 3 months on it, when we know that we don't know what we're getting from the federal government or the state government at this time. So that's my point, and I'll leave it at that.
Through the chair, if I may. I understand the budgets are very hard. Animal control, in my opinion, is probably one of the most difficult, just because we don't know what we're going to have. If it was not for all of the recent donations from the town between the food and the blankets, and that honestly has gotten us through months. Around this time last year, I can't even tell you how much we were spending on dog food. I mean, we were maxed out some days with large breed dogs, and we couldn't keep up. And it would be nice to say, you know, this is what we need. Unfortunately, I don't know. It changes so much. I will say, if we don't have money in the food budget or in the budget for extras, I supply it. And that's something that they deserve. And I will donate whatever they need if they're not getting it for donations. So if you had somebody else in this position, I'm not sure they could make it with this budget. And I just, after being there and seeing where some of these poor animals are coming from, there's no way you cannot spoil them and go the extra mile. And I won't complain about the budget. I understand that everybody has to cut back. I understand that we have to be frugal. So I will continue to do what it takes to give them what they need.
Darlene, did you?
Yes, I also want to, I fully support our animal control officer in every single way, but I also don't want her spending her own money. We do have a donation account that we do receive some monetary donations from time to time that you accept at your meetings. So we do utilize that fund as needed as well. So I just wanted to offer that.
Thank you. It's nice to hear how generous the people in the town are giving the money, and then also you said supplies and things like that. That's nice. Well, you know, as we've done for many years, we always look at the budget at the special town meeting in the fall, and if there are areas that need extra funds, we adjust and make adjustments at that point. We've done that when we've been here the last 2 years. In my 20 years on the Finance Committee, we always did that too. So that's certainly an option. We can make sure we take a look at the veterinary line, any other lines, and see if they need adjusting at the fall town meeting. Thank you.
We thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, through the town manager, can you revisit animal control? Because I don't think the animal control officer should be spending her own money to take care of animals in the town.
Through the chair, I agree, and I will.
Thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you. All right, that's it for DDIs. Thank you very much. The next, appreciate you coming up. The next is the, let's go back to, Fire Rescue Department. Chief Coleman and Deputy Chief Johnson.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
Good evening. Okay, so what questions do people, well, we want to look at the CIP first. Let's try that. So I have a question. Looks like we have a, what's the status with the ambulance? I see we're buying a new one.
Yes. Yes, that is correct. We have one ambulance slated in the Capitol
Okay,
to come. It's already been ordered
okay.
at this point. They take 3 years. We ordered it 3 years ago.
3 years, all right, so, and we've been saving money in the ambulance receipts to put them aside, so we're paying solely for, with ambulance receipts?
Correct. It's 100% out of ambulance receipts. Currently, the balance is about 4.2 million in that account.
Okay. And do we, all right, and we pretty much clear that out, except for, at town meeting, except for what we're paying for the, what we're setting aside for the ambulance, correct, or do we not?
We always keep a little bit aside
Okay.
for capital expenses, some unknowns with the ambulance, but we used a lot of it towards the budget.
Okay, thank you. Are we retiring an ambulance now then, too, when we get the new one?
Correct. There will be an ambulance that will be sent to auction when it's done, when it comes
Okay.
in.
Thank you.
So we have it scheduled to come in December of '27.
For 27. Okay,
Through the chair,
Yep.
what's the life expectancy of an ambulance? Is it based solely on miles, or is there 10 years?
Generally, the most we use them for is between 9 and 12 years, depending on how they go. We try to get 12 out of them.
okay. Any other questions? Well, any other questions on the CIP? Okay, you want to look at the budget then? Questions on the line items?
I appreciate the narrative piece. It was a novel, but it explains quite a bit of it. And that's a great feature to have, so I appreciate that. I know you guys are often asked to come and explain. Having that information, reading through, certainly helps, knowing where some of the constraints are and how your thought process behind the budget. Again, I don't do your job, so for me to come in and tell you you can't have something, knowing the needs and then seeing how it integrates with that is very helpful. And I'll always push back, but I'll always support. I think the town manager has pretty good recommendations in hers. I know it doesn't necessarily align, but I think knowing constraints, hopefully that works for you guys as well.
So, Madam Chair, if I may, I have 2 questions. One is more operational. When was the last time that the department worked with the Auburn Water Department, just to review where all of the hydrants are located, whether they're correctly located? I know our municipality has grown. I know that their placement might be based off of old housing locations. Is that something that we've regularly done, or when was the last time we've done it? 2 reasons why I'm asking. Obviously, there's been some high-profile fires lately, but also I know that there was an incident in Munson where they didn't have enough hydrants, or they don't have a lot of hydrants, and I just wanted to make sure that that's something that when I look at my own street, I'm pretty well covered because mine is 3 doors down, but there's sort of large gaps in between, and as houses have been infilled. I just wonder if we do an analysis on spacing.
Sure, we absolutely do, and, part of the technology line as we get down through the budget is a program that we use called First Due, which we use for many things, our incident reporting software, response, and in it has hydrants, and the hydrants are located on a map for us in locations, and in fact, we've tasked one of the administrative assistants with going through and working with the water department to double-check all the hydrants and get the flow rates and have it all in there. So, I'd be more than happy to show you, but on my phone, I have an app, so when we respond, we get a call, I get every call to my phone, I can press on the incident, I can actually see the closest hydrant, what's the next closest hydrant from there, see what the flow is. So we do actively do that, and we're currently finishing up an overhaul with that.
Great, thank you.
Welcome.
The other question I'm going to ask, and, this is sort of the question I'm sure the chief is going to go, oh, God. It's similar to when, when Chief Lemon was here, and I'd always ask about the vehicles, and he'd say, great, my favorite question. Let's talk overtime. So I know that in the past, the overtime was significantly underfunded, and your staffing levels were not where they are, certainly not where they should have been, not where they are now, thanks to the SAFER grant, and we're fully staffed. Also, I know at the time, I believe the contract had previous administrations, in order to forego sort of a large financial payment, was giving time. So I believe each staff member had something like 3 weeks' time that they could take. So between injuries, very low staffing, and 3 weeks of time additional, the overtime just kept piling on. I know when I reviewed the SAFER, the package that the chief had prepared for the SAFER grant, one of the selling points, shall I say, is that because we would be fully staffed, there was now a wiggle room where you could lose, I think it was like 2 or 3, and don't quote me on the numbers, you know them better than I do, 2 or 3 members per shift before you'd have to, based on agreements on minimum staffing, before you would have to fill an overtime shift. Additionally, I know that, or I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, town manager, is that the new contract removed or took away that 3 weeks. We sort of made up financially that, and they no longer have that 3 week.
That is correct.
So my question is that with all of these coming to fruition, this will be the first fiscal year that we have proper staffing levels above the minimum staffing. We have the removal of the 3 weeks. Is there, I know you actually asked for OT to go up to 900,000. The town manager held it at 600,000. I'm wondering why we can't start realizing the reduction now from that 600,000 down to like 500,000 to start, and go from there.
So through the chair, over time, we know that it's a sensitive subject. It's something over the years that we've come back and forth to the Finance Committee, and we've done many transfers. And the chief, I know he addressed this in a meeting in regards to the SAFERs, and it was asked whether or not there would be a positive effect on our overtime budget and seeing a decrease due to the impact of the new staffing and the increased staffing. And he said, yes, I think there will be, and he believes that there'd be a positive impact on overtime. And what he meant by that is meaning that it would decrease the ask that we were looking for, because each year we've come back over and over to it. And as you know, the funding for our overtime has been very low over the years, and that took a long time to get us to where we are, and we're very appreciative between your support and the Finance Committee support to get us where we are. However, I believe you guys are aware of the overtime study that we did do, mixed with many communities across the state, and looking at communities with our call volume, communities with our size department, our staffing, our budget all together. And when you look at that study, it really irons it out and shows that their budget was 900,000 with a 1.1 really is what they actually spent in it. And now, by no means are we looking at that, but I don't believe that you're going to actually see us decreased from the 600,000. From that, we're going to stick within the budget, and we're going to try our best to stay within the 600,000. We understand that budgets have constraints, and we're doing the best we can. And with the increased staffing, we do have the wiggle room as far as allowing people off now. Their shift minimum is 9, so that allows us to have a total of 4 people off before it creates overtime. And when I say that, the 4 people off with overtime, it depends. If it was a mix of supervisors, then it may be less than that, because we do have to maintain supervisors on the shift. But ultimately, when we look at the percentage of departments across the state and how overtime is kind of factored, and they strive for 15% of the firefighter line item. And if we did 15% of our firefighter line item, we'd actually be looking for $678,000 and $806. And that would be really to keep up with where we're going. And over the years, I think what happened is we found ourselves, we got a little stagnant, and we didn't keep up pace with between COLAs and increasing over the years. And I just would hate to see us fall into that same standpoint as far as falling backwards with anything. So realistically, we'd love to have the $678,000 just for the general staffing. But we understand that there's budget constraints, so.
The only other question I have is the rest for the junior mechanic. Is that being funded through this budget?
So, no, it is not. No, we did ask for it, but it is currently not being funded. We also, back on overtime, we do track it in 55 different categories as well for where it goes. So shift coverage is just part of overtime. There's many other reasons for overtime. You're welcome.
Questions? I have a couple of questions. What are the CPE, Certified Public Expenditure Funds? Is that a revenue source?
So what that is it's part of, through the ambulance, it's basically recognition that the money we get paid from Medicare and Medicaid for an ambulance doesn't always cover the cost. And what we have to do is we fill out an application. It's very detailed in regards to the cost of the department on the medical side. And then they look at that, they review it, and then they determine how much money they feel they owe us for the transports that we've done. And so we use that money to help offset other expenses.
So that's money from the federal government, Medicare?
Through the state.
Through the state, okay. All right, and how much do we usually, or how much have you seen us get back?
So it varies. This year, it's going to be, I believe, close to $120,000. It comes in June. Previous years, it's been $140, $180. We might have got as much as $200. It all depends on transports. It all depends on our patients. There's a lot that goes into it.
Okay, thank you. And the other question is, where are the on-call firefighters in this budget?
We don't have any on-call.
No more
No,
on-call?
We've not had on-call firefighters for a little while now.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions?
So I just want to confirm, so you don't foresee OT going below the $600,000 ask?
I do not. You're welcome.
Okay, any questions? All right, hearing none, let's continue on to emergency management.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too. Thank you, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Evening. Okay, what questions do we have? Can you tell us about the generator maintenance?
Sure. So that was something that was spawned when earlier this fall we had a issue with the school department had identified a major problem with the school's generator that had been there for, I think it's over 40 years old. It had come from the old high school. They had been doing the maintenance for that, and Mr. Gregoire, who has subject matter expert in generators and building maintenance, had identified that the way it was being handled could be handled better, and they brought a company in, and it was over $7,000 for just that one repair, that one time. So we looked at it, we looked at the budget. The budget was only to the $10,000, so that made us do a deep dive into allocating, helping out with that repair, and then looking more succinctly into the actual repairs, and is that funded, and we've had other discussions with that. We've decided to kind of bump that up for now in the interim as a stopgap to maybe looking at moving some of these generators into the physical plant of each one of these budgets and not under just emergency management.
Okay, thanks, go ahead, Julie.
To the chair, Eric's absolutely right. There has been an extraordinary issue with the generator at the high school. It was originally in the last high school, and it was moved over into the new building. You will see a warrant article requesting its replacement in the next few weeks. We did find that during that process, that we needed to invest more time and money into the generators that the town owns. So in our discussion, we have decided to increase that line item, make sure our generators are on a maintenance plan so that we can maintain them appropriately. And like Eric said, there's probably a chance we're going to break this line item up into the proper departments. At this point, that's where it's been living for years, but I think it makes sense that we actually put it within the department that has the generator. So that is the increase from 5,000 to 15,000. That's pretty much why we did the increase.
Right, thank you. How many generators do we maintain?
It's over 20 of the smaller to medium size, but then you also have the very large ones at the school buildings, town hall here, which have major phases, which are outside of the mechanics' ability to fully load test and really get into these machines.
And who inspects them? Do we do it, or do we have a service do it?
Currently, we're doing it now through the fire department's mechanic,
Yeah.
who runs the maintenance on those.
Thank you. Questions? No other questions? All right, thank you very much,
Thank you.
Eric.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so, moving on in our budgets, the next budget to look at is DPW. So let's look at the capital first. Oh, is this Peter?
Yes,
Peter, nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you all.
I'm glad to have you on board.
Appreciate that.
through the chair, if I
Yes.
may, I wanted to introduce Peter Boria. This is the new sewer superintendent, assistant DPW director. Started a week and a day ago.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
And got his feet wet with his first blizzard too, so.
Oh, you're right.
Yes.
All right. So what questions do we have regarding the CIP?
I have a lot, so I don't know if somebody else wants to go first.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, you can go ahead, that's fine.
So I'm happy to see on here, setting aside, under engineering, the 100,000 for dam improvements. My question is that, if I remember right from the Fuss and O'Neill report, the high end was 158,000 planning level cost estimates, and they put that disclaimer in there that that was not engineer's estimate. It is not construction. It's going to be higher, most likely. Is the 100,000 going to cover and achieve everything the Fuss and O'Neill report said we need to do to Eddy Dam in order to keep it in the, I think it was the fair condition is what it was rated? Or does this need to get bumped up in order to meet the needs of the dam?
Sure. So through the chair, the way that I approached the dam CIP item was I looked at all the dams throughout town, and I looked at basically the average cost of it and split it up into the 5-year CIP, just so that we weren't hit with a huge cost all at once. And honestly, we don't really know if we could do all that work in 1 year. I'm probably going to be coming to the board next meeting for a grant request for I'm sorry, I don't have the damn name. I think it's Leesville, the one in Worcester. We're looking for some funding for engineering costs for that, for improvements. So we're, on top of the funding for this that we included in CIP, we're also looking at grant funding as well. So looking at a 5-year plan to upgrade these dams to a good condition from FAIR.
How many dams do we have in town that the town is responsible for?
4.
So we're dividing up the 4 over the next 5 years. We know the report from Eddy Dam. I just want to, there's been a lot of focus on Eddy Dam. We have the report. They've laid out what's needed. It's very similar to what they laid out in 2023 that was needed and not addressed. And I understand that, now in talking with the town manager, and you had asked for the money, it wasn't granted to do that. I just want to make sure as we keep going further and further from that initial report, that we actually make the repairs before it slips.
Absolutely.
And I'm worried that 100,000 this year divided against 4 dams is not going to achieve that. So I guess I go back to, the question is the 100,000 going to cover at least what critically needs to be done at the dam this year in order to?
Yes. So there are some things that we can do in-house, like vegetation, clearing vegetation, that type of thing. So that cost can be trimmed down. But the overall concern that we've been talking about with Eddy Pond was the seepage. And based on our conversations with DCR at our meeting, there might be some simple fixes. Obviously, we need to study this a little bit more, just to make sure that what they were talking about is something that is going to fix the issue. But they were not concerned that this was a catastrophic type of seepage. It's basically just the mortar in between the blocks. So I do believe that will cover Eddy Pond. I'm hoping that there will be some funding available for the other dams as well.
Thank you. To Mr. Carpenter's point earlier, I guess I would just ask that you watch this in fall town meeting if it needs to be increased, that we sort of put a focus on that and make sure that we're taking care of this.
Thank you. Thank you for your support.
The other is, my favorite topic, roadway improvements. I see that we have, correct me if I'm wrong, not included in this budget is I think it's 1.174 million for Chapter 90 that we're getting. I think we're going to be in year 2 of the 5-year governor's plan. Knock on wood, it stays that way. We're putting in 650,000 in this budget for roadway in the capital. I know that previously we had what was referred to as a 20-year plan based on cost increases, et cetera. That has slipped significantly. I think in FY20 we did 4.4 miles of roads. I think the last year we did 1.12 or 1.2 about. Will the 1.174 plus the 650,000 get us back to that 15 to 20 year plan? Because full disclosure, I don't think it's going to. I think that you guys need more money invested in roadways, quite frankly. And I know our free cash is high based on DLS. And I'd like to see this bumped up significantly, because I know the roadways that you have projected to tackle this year are major roadways. I believe it was Auburn Street, Church, South. And I'm going to bring up my favorite road, not so favorite road, Otis Street. It is the worst condition road, based on your index, and it has slipped. I don't know if you've driven over it lately. I know it was done 12 years ago. It looks like at that time it was a mill and overlay that was done, because if you look at the, all of the deficiencies in the road today, and you go back to 12 years ago using Google Earth images, they're all the same. So clearly, the under wasn't addressed. They've all come back up in 12 years on a mill and overlay, on our street with no drainage, water coming off the hill and then going in either way, and then also going to the residents. Several neighbors have reached out to me. I'd like to see us bump up this number significantly, give you the tools and the finances you need to get us back to that, and to address, quite frankly, Otis Street again. I know there's drainage issues. I know it needs, to be looked at, but I don't think it can go any longer. There's literally chunks of the road coming out. And they're washing down the Pinehurst. They're washing onto people's yards. It really needs to be addressed. So the 650, where did that sort of come from? Where'd that?
So, through the chair, my request included an increase in funding in several items, including the annual budget as well as the CIP. So that's where I pulled all that money together to get us to basically a 4.5 mile a year plan. So that's why I had requested the road reconstruction in the budget increase, as well as the drainage increase in the stormwater division, as well as the roadway infrastructure and the drainage CIP in the engineering division.
So
So we're
what you were looking at was the 650 in the CIP roadway improvement under highway division, plus the 625 that you put in your operating budget under roadway reconstruction as well. Both of those, not one or the other. You were looking at having both of those on hand, plus the Chapter 90.
I believe, I'm not sure if my CIP, I'm not sure if that was also bumped after my initial request, because I know that there was also just a discussion about moving some of the budget numbers into CIP.
The FY 2027 original, is that the original department ask? And then the revised became 650 because you moved the money from the operating over to the capital?
That is correct.
Okay. So you would ask for 120 in roadway improvement plus 625 in the CIP roadway reconstruction.
So I had bumped up the roadway improvement and the drainage. Originally was the 120. I'm just not sure if that was the original request, the FY '27 revised.
I guess I would just say that town manager is giving you 650,000. I think we should be giving you, quite frankly, about another 500,000. To do not just, the additional streets, but also to look at doing a permanent patch program so that those streets don't fall off. I'm just gonna put this out there, I'm not advocating you do it on my street. Hampton Street is a good example where it was paved not too long ago. There are some considerable potholes that show up, they're getting cold patched, but they show up every single time. And if we don't do a permanent patch, at some point, it's gonna start eroding and premature wear it down the PCI.
Absolutely. So through the chair, we are working on the next contract It's usually a 3-year contract, and we are including permanent patch in that contract, just for that reason. So thank you.
I guess I want to make sure you have all the money you need to do it, is the best way of saying this.
So I apologize, I know that there was some shifting around in between the annual budget and the CIP, and I can revisit those numbers as well.
Yeah, sure.
If I may, the departmental request for road reconstruction was $625. That is under the general operating budget. I reduced that to $150 for the general operating budget, and I brought over $650,000 for the CIP. So it's actually a bit more than what was requested. Yes, it was a bit more than what was requested. So, knowing the priority of the board, talking in depth with Joanna about the 20-year plan, that was actually only legit, I think, for 1 year.
In 2011.
That we need to tackle this and be creative and look at, just like you said, Mr. Crane, the cost increase, the scoring of the streets that need to be done, the prioritization. We also did the same thing with another line item.
The drainage.
The pipes, catch basins, we moved that as well. The drainage for under stormwater, so it was in an effort to put as much into these, into the CIP as possible, and do as much work as we could this next fiscal year.
Through the chair, what does 1.7 million in asphalt get you? Does it get you 10 miles? Does it get you 2 miles?
So right now, we're paying or estimating about $130 per linear foot, and that is, I think, a little bit under 800,000 per mile.
2 miles.
So again, how much was it per linear foot?
$130 per linear foot.
And that doesn't include any cost for drainage or anything, does it?
No, that's a typical roadway, so
Okay.
basically an average.
Okay.
It fluctuates if we have drainage, if we have sidewalks or curbing or anything like that, that type of improvements, then it might go down a little bit, but that's sort of the average.
Okay, thank you.
It's pretty much a pick-up, put-down. It's a book job, pick-up, put-down. It doesn't include new drainage. It might include curbing if there's curbing there, but, I mean, luckily, a lot of our curbing is asphalt and not granite, but.
So, in looking at the average cost, that 130, that was what we had paid for the last contract. So we did include drainage in that calculation, but it depends on the road. There's some roads that have all metal pipes or just a network of spaghetti that needs to be redone.
So we haven't really I'm happy to see the improved budget numbers, but it doesn't sound like we're actually reducing the overall plan. What realistically can be done in a season? Like, if we had double the budget, would that be, you could get that done? Like, is there 20 miles is the most you can ever get done in a season, or?
No, I mean, so for us, for the engineering department, it's basically creating a cost estimate, putting a bid out for, $500,000 or $5 million. It's not, there's not a big difference, it's just additional numbers. As far as the construction goes, if we have a contractor on board, a lot of the work, if they start right at the beginning of the season, they're done within a couple of months. They can go pretty fast once they get into town. So we're limited by the budget more so than any other constraints.
No, and I think you've been constrained many years, which is why the roads are probably in disrepair. I don't think we can take it all in 1 year. I like the increase, and I want to make sure we're making improvements, but 2 miles a year is not going to get us where we need to be.
I mean, I'd like to get us back to 4 miles a year, quite frankly. And I think,
I don't have the money for that, so I'm not going to volunteer.
well, no, I mean, it's the, we're at 2 miles on what we're giving. I'm not saying take it out of your own pocket, but we certainly, again, have free cash that we could get closer to that. But it's, the roads are getting worse and worse, and it's because we're not investing the money. And for every dollar we shortchange today, it grows exponentially. And I can send you reports, I can send you studies, I can send you the calculations. Once that payment drops off, it gets a lot more expensive for every year you let it drop off. And we're letting it drop off because we're not investing in the infrastructure. And again, the DPW director and the town manager have done an outstanding job in identifying it and increasing it in sort of the limits that we sort of set. But I think we should be going up further. So I'll get off my soapbox on roadways now. I think that's pretty much it for CIP questions that I have.
Why don't we now take a look at, go through the line items then? How about the engineering budget?
So I just have a question on road reconstruction. You left 150,000 in there, in the operating. Is that for, I'm going to go back to sort of sidewalks. I know I said I was done with CIP, but I'm going to work sidewalks into this. Is that I know that we've had to spend the sidewalk money that we had initially planned for construction on survey and design for Bryn Mawr instead. Is this 150 left in the operating budget because it's imagined to be used for consulting fees? Or did we not factor that in?
So this was not really, we weren't planning on using that specifically for sidewalk. There's some flexibility in having some money left in the budget versus the CIP. So in discussions with the town manager, we decided to leave some of those funds in the operating budget, and then the remainder in the CIP.
So have we factored anywhere in here money for outside consultants or outside survey, knowing that, at least in the case of Bryn Mawr, we had to expend what was thought to be construction dollars for survey and design instead? So we weren't building, we were designing to build in the future.
So we haven't separated that cost out, not knowing, what the future projects are going to be. The Bryn Mawr sidewalk project is going to be, telling in what the design cost is versus what the construction cost is. Typically, it's 10 to 20%. I'm hoping that that's not the case, but we'll see this spring.
Okay, so I guess I'm concerned that we're not building in any money for survey and design, knowing that we have that need in-house. And instead, we are utilizing, again, what is a shortfall of money for the roadway and an even bigger shortfall of money for sidewalk to expend on that. So we're getting even less done now for sidewalks. So I just want to put that out there that, we're 3 years into asking for Bryn Mawr to be constructed and still not constructed. And it's because we've had to spend money on survey and design because we didn't have that capability in-house with our staff. And yet we're still not building in some money in here for survey and design to avoid that in the future.
No, I agree. We should
That's
have contracts in place for these type of things, and I think we brought that up when we discussed Bryn Mawr the last time. 3 years is obviously an unacceptable level of time for a sidewalk to be constructed, so we need to do better when we have these type of projects, because we can't have 3 years for a sidewalk. And I know you've been working on it, but again, it's, the resident has 3 years of an unsafe walking in the road situation, so we now have a public safety situation that we, at least in some fashion, are culpable for. And again, I think that we need to be ahead of the 8 ball with these contracts in place, so that we can, when a culvert goes out, we actually have somebody that we can call. We can't wait 2 years for Water Street to reopen. So I'm not going to go off on a tangent. I'm just agreeing with Mr. Crane that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and, you know, it's the budget, which, and I also agree with Mr. Chambers, we can't do everything in 1 year. And yes, we have a lot of money in free cash, but we also have unanticipated needs on the building side that we haven't even tackled. So we can't spend it all in the first year that we're in struggle. We do have to be strategic in that area. But, you know, I would like to see us be a little more forward-thinking about getting those contracts in place so that we can start when the problem is, when we're aware of the problem, so that we can get people, and if there's grant funding and everything else, we can actually address it, type of thing. But anyways, I appreciate everything you're doing. I know it's a tough job. I know you've been down a sewer superintendent, so now you have a very experienced gentleman. He'll have to learn the Auburn way of doing things, but it sounds like he'll jump right in with both feet, so.
So through the chair, if I may, so the Bryn Mawr sidewalk is a little bit more of a special case, just because when the issue of the safety was brought up, the Highway Division actually did create a walking trail to keep those residents off the roadway. So we did try to address that in the immediate. So now we're looking to construct a paved walkway, handicapped accessible, the whole 9 yards. There are constraints that we're working with the engineer for, just because there's some, I can update you on at the next meeting on some of the projects, but I understand that it has taken some time, but there have been steps taken in the meantime to address those safety concerns.
But if you were living on that street, would you be saying nice things about our stuff? I think we have to put ourselves in the case of the resident, who for 3 years, so we have a walking path that isn't handicap accessible, that is something that now we can't clear as easily because it's earth, not bituminous. And again, we're not here to talk about Bryn Mawr, obviously. And we just need to think of the resident and the residents and how that reflects on the department and the work that you do. It definitely affects your reputation as a department and everybody who works here. So I don't want people going around with negative impressions of anybody working in any department in the town, even though I know that's an impossible goal. Just because of emotions and situations. 3 years under any objective criteria is too long for a sidewalk to be down. But anyway, we're here to talk about the budget, so.
I will say, I do live in that neighborhood, and it is markedly better than what it was before. So
Thank you.
I mean, it is not a fully accessible sidewalk, but it is also not walking on the side of the road, on a blind turn, so it is so much better than it was before.
Thank you.
Through the chair, I think important to say, and I agree with the board members that are talking about this 3-year-long project. When I first became town manager interim in February, Joanna and I had a conversation about Bryn Mawr, and we were moving forward to get it done. And it wasn't until, unfortunately, her and I worked together to talk about it, to move it forward. Prior administrations, it wasn't an important topic because Bryn Mawr wasn't necessarily in the top of our priority list when it comes to scoring or whatever. So I know it's 3 years for the neighbors. 3 years is a long time. It's unacceptable. But for us, for Joanna in particularly, it's been less than a year, and the design has been brutal from what I get briefed on every week when I meet Joanna. It's been extremely difficult and a lot more comprehensive than I would have ever thought, but it's going to be done right. It's going to improve the whole neighborhood, and hopefully, as soon as we get that done, the neighbors will be happy. But I do agree, it was a long time coming, and I think we'll all be very happy when it's done.
Thank you.
So on that same note, there's no placeholder in here for Water Street, correct? And my concern is that if we have no placeholder in here for Water Street for this fiscal year, if you have a design that's ready to go in May, but there's no money set aside for it, we have to wait for the fall town meeting to allocate something, which means we're not getting Water Street addressed until, at the earliest, April of 2027. And as Mr. Carpenter said, that's 2 years to have Water Street closed, which is 1.5 years too long.
If I may, through the chair, Joanna and I have had a lot of conversation about this because we had the opportunity to get a grant for the design of Water Street. We started going down that line of getting all the information together. We decided then to use the funds that were appropriated at Fall Town Meeting, start the design now, and go for a grant for construction. So that is, you can give an update on that if you'd like, but we understand the importance and the urgency. I just felt like, we both felt like if there was an opportunity to get a grant for construction, we should at least apply for the grant for construction. The design is going to take a matter of, I don't know how many months, and you can fill that in, Joanna. So whether we put it on the annual town meeting as a capital item, just to be safe, and hopefully get the grant, and then maybe turn back the capital item. That is something that makes sense, but I didn't want to just automatically ignore the grant. And if you could fill it up in for what I'm missing.
So there were 2 rounds for the grant, and we're looking at further down the road, further down in the year. I'm not exactly sure when that second deadline is, but what I didn't want to do is, when we found out about Water Street last fall, we had preemptively put in a request at town meeting for the design and for the construction. And that, looking back, but hindsight being 2020, the construction just, it wasn't ready. So once we have a better idea of what it's going to cost, right now the engineering company is doing the survey. They were scheduled for borings this week. I don't think that they made it.
How come?
Because they would have to bore through a few feet of snow, but, so they are working on the design. Obviously, it's a culvert, water, environmental issues, so there's a lot of environmental engineering that needs to be considered. So I will come back to the board, I think it's March 9th, with an update on my projects, but I just didn't want to be preemptive and making that same mistake again, knowing that there's also grant funding available.
Thank you. Any other questions about the engineer budget? All right, next is stormwater.
So I just wanted to make sure, only because I didn't see, it didn't jump out at me, but the replace pipe/catch basins was 250,000 down to 50, and then it says capital, because I think you moved 200,000 to capital.
That is correct.
What account was that moved to? Just
in the
want to circle it on my notes.
engineering, DPW, drainage.
Any other questions on stormwater? All right, moving, we'll look at facilities. So we have facility maintenance and fleet maintenance.
Did we skip highway, or are we going back?
Yeah, I was just going to say,
Yeah, highway's next on ours.
Oh, I beg,
It's listed wrong on here. It is highway.
oh, highway should be next, okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
So my question is, I know that you had asked for additional highway staff. Is that being funded in this budget? I think you
the
asked for
chair.
2
Yep.
additional.
Through the chair, the additional highway staff person was not funded. I did fund a temporary intern for engineering and also for fleet maintenance.
I guess I would just, I think I had said this when we said our budget priorities was, mine was DPW, DPW, DPW. Specifically, staffing, because the highway staff are getting pulled in 20 different directions to do 20 different things. Sometimes it's their regular DPW jobs, and then other times it's special projects. And there's certain things that are slipping through the cracks because they are working on Camp Gleason, or because they are working in order to save costs on that project, or they're working on Goddard Park in order to save costs on that project, and they're not doing the stuff that they're actually able, to do, like potholes, like pavement markings, like everything else that we ask them to do. So, and these are the same folks, correct me if I'm wrong, that are also repairing the catch basins that we're all reporting, that we're putting more money into, and we're going to expect them to do more of them, but we're not providing the staff to do it. So I guess I would have, my own personal preference would have been to forego an intern in engineering or a part-timer in engineering, knowing that we have 3 PEs in engineering to oversee those projects, and instead prioritize a frontline laborer who's plowing, which we all need right now, who's, filling potholes, who's fixing the catch basins, et cetera.
Yep.
Through the chair, thank you for bringing this important topic up. It is something that I labored over. The reason I chose to fund the interns is because it is less expensive, and I felt that having 2 people in 2 different areas was very helpful. The other thing that you are not aware of, even though I think it was brought up in the past, but I don't think it was ever actually committed. Joanna and I have had a lot of discussions over highway people doing work that needs to be contracted out. We have stopped that practice as much as we can. I think there's a couple things that were still in the works, but we have committed to having highway people do highway work and catch basins and things that are important, that have a huge impact in our neighborhoods. So we heard this board loud and clear last year when this was first discussed. It was a way that previous administrations tried to save money, and in reality, it was really difficult to get some work done, and I think it was difficult for Joanna to manage as well. So I'm happy to say the budget does not include any of those types of special projects, and my decision to do interns, again, was because of the cost and to stay within the parameters outlined by the board.
A question. You brought up extra highway workers to do plowing. Do we have any extra vehicles for highway workers to do plowing with? Or are they all being used by the people we employ?
So, I mean, at this point, I think, like I said earlier in the evening, we didn't have any spare vehicles.
Yep.
That being said, if we have highway vehicles that are not being used, then we'll use other divisions.
Okay.
We'll have the sewer employees use those vehicles. Or, you know, it's basically it's a fluid situation. Each
So
storm.
it sounds like we're not, sounds like we're fully using the fleet that we have, whether or not we have these other employees. Correct, thank you. Okay, any other questions on highway? No, all right, so now we can look at, what's next, facilities? Yep, okay.
Yeah.
Any questions on either of these budgets? No. Okay, so continuing, we can look at recreation next, correct? Mm-hmm. I took mine out of the binder, so it's in a different order
It
now.
says,
What's
next is fleet maintenance.
We have, yeah, so
So it's
it
fleet.
depends on which one you're going.
Oh,
so
okay, I
if
was
we're
looking
going
at
in the
both.
Order of the binder, it's fleet maintenance is next.
All right, well,
Sorry about that.
that's okay, facility maintenance, fleet maintenance, any questions?
If I could speak to this.
Sure.
Just quickly, and I think I brought this up in my discussion last week with the board.
Yep.
And I know some of the board members attend the finance committee meetings, or at least watch them after the fact. Our goals and objectives with fleet maintenance was to properly fund the actual work that needs to be done. Our fleet department is extremely talented. We have new guys, not that the old ones were bad, but we have new guys, new set of eyes with different ideas and thoughts and a great work ethic. And this is the first year, I'm pretty proud to say that it's properly funded based on past expenses, institutional knowledge, and what we've been dealing with the last few years. I think it's now in good shape for Peter to take over, because now this is his department. So when there's a shortfall, we know who to look for. But if you look at each of the line items for motor vehicle repairs, you will see an increase. And those increases are based on actual tracking of the departmental vehicles that are being done by in a work order system. So I just wanted to start off and say that.
Okay, questions on fleet maintenance? Okay, so next we can look at
Parks.
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 And just to confirm, the park laborer position was not included in the budget.
That is correct.
Question, we do hire part-time help for the summers, do we not?
We
Yeah,
do.
okay.
We've had some trouble finding people, but,
Yeah.
but we usually get a few a year for
Good.
parks and cemetery.
Okay,
Is that the seasonal parks account that's at zero?
Yes. So, through the chair, there's a note at the bottom of the budget, and there, I'm sorry, it's cut off on my printout, but
On ours, too.
I apologize.
Just realized that, too.
So the seasonal parks is intended to be paid out of the parks revolving account.
okay. All right, moving on from parks, let's look at Packagug Golf Course, any questions?
Question I have is anyone at DPW doing any maintenance work up there on a regular basis?
Not on a regular basis. I think that, every once in a while, there might be, equipment that's needed. I think we had I think there was a tree that needed to be removed at one point. So they help each other out, but it's not an ongoing basis.
Yeah, to the extent that they are we getting a reimbursement out of the golf course?
So, Karen actually tracks our indirect costs, but there are also times that the golf course employees work on, they'll plow for us, and also help out with improvements at the town hall. So I think it evens out just because the golf course staff aren't working on the golf course as much during the winter. They'll be maintaining equipment, but there's other things that they can work on at the DPW.
Now, didn't we designate special employees up at the Packagug Golf Course to do plowing? So that's a separate job. That's not them getting paid their normal hours.
So technically, yes, but they're only getting paid for overtime, so outside of work hours. So they're, so during the day, they're not getting paid out of the snow and ice budget. Everybody's considered a regular town employee during the day.
I know I've been an advocate for utilizing golf course funds. I'd like to expand the account, but I know on the capital side, there's been a lot of investment or planned investment on that. I don't know if this board would like to see expanding the use of those funds. I know AstroTurf and some other things are coming up, but an enterprise fund that does outdoor recreation, if we expanded that, could certainly help. And I know tracking who's where and getting those offsets and reimbursements from an enterprise account certainly is another revenue source / benefit to the town, so I don't know if in the future the board wants to take that up and try to explore that, but certainly an opportunity.
Question about the CIP for the Packagug Golf Course. So we are doing a 2-year lease purchase. It looks like we're for 24 golf carts. So we do a lease purchase, so we own them at the end of that period, right? So when they reach the end of their lives, what do we do with them?
So I believe this hasn't really happened. I think this is the first time that we're replacing them, but I think the expectation would be to put in towards a trade-in of the new ones.
Okay, all right. And how many golf carts do we have up there, approximately?
I want to say 30.
30, okay. Thank you.
What is the purpose of the lease purchase? Is it beneficial? Is it more expensive? Is it give you a window, spread out your costs?
Do you mean the season pass or?
No, for the golf carts themselves.
Oh, the lease purchase?
Yes.
I think that's the way that we've always done it, just to spread out the payments.
Have we ever looked at potential savings with a one-time expense?
We can discuss that with the town accountant.
That's a good thing, actually, to consider, because we're looking at an enterprise fund, and they usually have a healthy retained earnings, so we would have the cash available to spend on them up front. Okay. All right, any other questions on Packagug Golf Course? All right, continuing, let's take a look at the Parks Department.
We already did parks, we're
We
on
already did
recreation now.
Parks, we're on Recreation, I beg your pardon, this list is messed up. All right, this list on the agenda. All right, so now we're going to look at Recreation.
So Madam Chair, my question is just to confirm, according to this, our recreation director is getting paid nothing. So I just want to make sure that we are keeping our recreation director, and she is getting fully paid out of some account?
Through the chair, we are keeping our recreation, look at her face, our recreation director. And in fact, in this budget, my recommendation to the board was to move her from the senior center, from assisting the senior center director and working on recreation full-time. She's funded through the recreation revolving account this year, but she is, and starting in July, she'll be focusing 100% of her time on recreation programs, new ones, old ones, all different ages, and we look forward to a very robust year next year.
So her salary's coming out of the revolving account, that's why it's not here for the tax
That is
levy.
correct.
Through the chair, there is a footnote at the bottom of the recreation.
Oh, it's cut off.
Footnotes are not on ours, they're all,
No. I know.
Sorry.
I had my notes down there, long story.
Okay, so we'll just have to maybe put, put those in a printed,
Yes, we'll make sure.
page like that, too.
Yeah, well,
Thank you.
it looks like on yours, each department has, each sort of division has its own page, whereas ours got combined, so I think your footnotes got cut off when they combined them.
Okay, continuing, looking at cemetery, any questions?
Actually, can I go back to recreation?
Sure.
We have an increase of $4,000 in the 4th of July. I assume that's fireworks? I thought that Eastland Partners was contributing towards the fireworks as part of their LIP agreement. Is that not the case?
if I can, through the chair, it is in the Eastland Partners agreement that they have with the town of Auburn. The primary purpose of those funds is for the roadways in that area, if you look at the item. In addition to that, and actually regarding those roadways, I have talked to Joanna to incorporate them as we can as well as needed. They do provide us with other avenues that we can use the money for. I was focusing more on the original intent of the roadways before I touched on this, but you're absolutely right, it is listed as one of the areas that we can possibly fund in the future.
Okay. Yeah, the LIP for Eastland Partners predated me, so I just always hear everyone saying that they're paying for fireworks, so I just wanted to check on that.
And fireworks went up considerably this year.
Thank you.
Well, it is the 250th. There's going to be a lot of demand for fireworks.
Okay, any questions on cemetery? Hearing none, let's take a look at the sewer department. Any questions? And, yes? Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to ask Peter anything. It's his
Oh,
first
I'm
time.
sorry, you're right.
He actually didn't do the budget.
He
but-
didn't, yeah, let's not put him on the hot seat right now, okay? Want him to come back tomorrow, all right. All right.
So again, on the CIP aspect, we've done a lot of investigation over the years and trying to get that. Are you familiar with the plan, and is that plan still something you're going to move forward with, or just getting up to speed on?
If I may, so part of this is my fault because even though Peter started last week, I was off last week. So today was sort of our first day working that we weren't dealing with the
Not
snowstorm.
an acceptable answer.
So he hasn't caught up on the entire department just yet.
No, so I was throwing it out there to include you in this. I didn't want to, put you on the spot.
I appreciate that. There are definitely some projects coming up this year that we're going to start meeting on and to move forward with coming out of your sewer system evaluation study that you've done over the last 3 years. And you also have an asset management program project that's going to start as well. That's going to take that information and expand on that to figure out where to invest in the future. I think at a prior town meeting, you approved $4.7 million for Sword Street and Goddard. God, I don't know if it's a street or whatever, but, so based on that, there's going to be, Sword Street's going to be a two-phase project. Goddard Drive will be another part of that project that we're going to be working on getting that going. So if those are the projects that you're referencing, yes, we're going to be looking at moving those forward this construction season and into the following years.
There was no need to apologize.
Nothing wrong.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for including me.
I just have one question. So I know that we have waste that comes from Oxford into Auburn on its way to the Upper Blackstone. Where does that sort of revenue factor into the whole budget? Where is that accounted for? And is it applied towards our expense for the Upper Blackstone line item? Does it offset that?
Sewer retained earnings.
No, yeah, go ahead. Why don't you come up, please? It's a revenue source.
No, I understand it's a revenue source. My question is that then directly applied to the fees that we're paying the Upper Blackstone? So I just want to make sure that it's coming in as a revenue source, but it's going out to pay for what it's being used for, and that the Upper Blackstone line item here for the tax levy is not hitting.
I would assume that it would go into the,
General fund.
or the retained earnings of
Sewer
the,
department, right.
yes. Because it's not included in the budget.
So it goes into the retained earnings, but we're paying out of the tax levy the fee for the Upper Blackstone.
No, it's all,
Okay, so what is the UBWPAD?
that's the Upper Blackstone, but that's coming out of the,
Enterprise fund. That'll come out of your sewer enterprise fund, not out of your general fund. Sorry, I don't even know where to speak.
So for this, so for the expenses on the sewer, this is all being funded through the revolving fund, and none of it's coming out of tax levy?
Correct. And as stated, I think that invoice to the town of Oxford for their flow will show up as receipts and be accounted for in retained earnings at the end of the year.
Okay, any other questions? Great. Is that on that budget? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet everyone.
Nice to meet you. Still work.
Through the chair,
Yeah.
I know we still have a lot going on. I will say I appreciate the effort that was put in to the budget and the layout, as well as the explanations and the good conversation that we've had. Hopefully, in the future, we continue to have these conversations, but I think it helped facilitate that, and, I mean, it's gone pretty quickly. I mean, for everything that's going on, we've
Right.
had good discussion, and
Yep.
it's helped facilitate, so appreciate the effort that's been put into this.
Good. And, yeah, it's taken a long, it's a big budget, and it's a tough one to go through. And I want to thank our town manager for getting that together with all the department heads. I know it was a lot of work. Thank you.
No problem. If I may, Madam Chair,
Yep.
just to show the board, I meant to say this in the beginning. There was a request to have funding sources in the budget. We provided a sheet that's going to be, it's got the yellow highlight on the top. These are the funding sources, and it shows the account number, the description, and the funding source. Next year, this will be incorporated into each departmental budget. You won't have to go
Good.
back and forth. But that way, you have it, and the Finance Committee has it as we go through the budget, so.
Yeah, so Madam Chair, if I just want to, not to, I don't want anyone thinking I'm criticizing previous administrations for this. I think that that prior town managers provided a strong foundation for the current town manager to build off of with this budget. But I just wanted to share my appreciation for the time you took. This budget book is, in my opinion, far more transparent. A process for both the select board and the finance committee and eventually town meeting, should they dive in line item by line item, where we are now seeing what our departments are requesting in order to make their operations, whether it's staffing or accounts, to provide the level of service that they want to provide, that the public is demanding, that the boards are demanding, contrasting with the town manager's final recommendation. As we know, previous ones always had that number magically the same, even though we knew it wasn't magically the same. We're now able to see, okay, based on the priorities and the constraints and the 2.5, or not going to the full 2.5, what we're able to get, what is being prioritized and isn't being prioritized in the town manager's budget. And I just want to thank you for listening to us over the past, well, at least me, the past 3 years. Even when you were assistant town manager, hearing me say the same stuff to then town manager, and going through and really taking it to heart. Again, I compliment you for this budget book and for this process that you did. I know not everyone is coming out happy with what they're getting. I respect that. I understand that. But this budget is far more responsive. The budget book is far more transparent, and has come a long way. So I just want to, thank you for the hard work that you put into this.
Thank you.
And I'm not going to compliment you at all, because your head is swelling as I see it. But no, the only thing, because I hate to be a ditto, I do want us to build in over the summer some time preparation for special town meeting. And I know at least 3 of us are still going to be sitting here during that time. So unless anybody objects, I think we do need to put some more time in, and hopefully we can also get some meetings between this board and the finance committee and the school committee, and try and create a special or a regular cadence where we're keeping in communication with each other so that we are aware of the needs of the individual units that make up the town. So it doesn't matter where your money's coming from. It's the town budget. You're a town employee. Nobody's this or that. They're just a town employee, and we want them to have what they need to the extent possible.
Thank you. Okay, so the town manager has presented the budget to us. Do I hear a motion?
So before we do that, Madam Chair, I just want to point out, Town Bylaws, Section 3.06, parentheses 1, allows for 2 recommendations. Allows for a recommendation by the town manager to Finance Committee, and allows a recommendation by the Select Board to the Finance Committee. Again, I think that this board has been a pass-through in the past, because, again, those numbers always magically were the same. We're now seeing that they're not the same. Because we asked to see them, we asked for the call-out. And again, the town manager did an excellent job of asking the departments to provide the real look. And we even heard tonight that even some of them didn't even go provide the real look. They were frugal. But I think we were a little unfair to the town manager, quite frankly, in my opinion, where we put it all on 100% on her shoulders as the town manager to decide what was coming in, what was not coming in, and in some cases, we made her the bad guy for carrying forward our goals or our objectives. And the budget she provided, it met a lot of those. It came under the 2.5% that some were worried about. It balanced staffing needs and departments and overtime. But in some areas, at least for myself, I think that I'd like to build off of what she provided and have a separate select board recommendation. However, it's 9 o'clock at night. I know everyone's tired. If I'm the only one that feels that way, I'll hold it, but just some ideas of what I'd like to see is I'd like to see us put more money into the roadway, an additional $500,000 into the roadway budget for free cash. I would like to see us, I understand what the chief and the deputy chief said, but I think there was a real expectation that that overtime budget was going to come down. At least that was my expectation. From the 600,000, I would like to see us funded at 500,000. And then if they do go over, then they should go to finance committee and they should justify why, with the full staffing, with the minus the 3 weeks, that they're still, exceeding what we were spending. There's some other things I think we should provide at least one highway maintenance person to DPW to help do all of the work that we are now insisting DPW do, that we're giving them more money and asking them to do. So there are small changes like that. The school department, I understand that we were able to move 30,000 into capital, which is great. That leaves 70,000. We found an additional 10,000 that we gave them, which means that they're now 60,000 short. They cut it somewhere. I followed those meetings. They were already bare budget. So they cut something that I don't know what they cut. I'm a little concerned that they cut it. So I would like to see us give them that 60,000 to make them whole. Those sort of line items. But again, if I'm the only member that feels this way, then I'm more than happy not to put that forward, and we can do the customary vote that we make every single year.
I'm going to say that's a very big conversation that shouldn't be mentioned at the end of a meeting. I'm in favor of transmitting it to the Finance Committee. If we want to have further conversations, to Mr. Crane's point of view, I'm always open to listen to other members, but we can't spring things on members. We came in looking at a budget with our questions. I know that you do a lot of research, and I appreciate it. I've learned a lot since you've joined the board, but I think we should stick with the standard.
I agree with Mr. Carpenter. I don't disagree with Mr. Crane. I just would have liked to have that in mind as I was going through it. That being said, I'm not opposed to that being the plan for next year.
So I think it comes down to timing. I've had this conversation with the town manager, not in public view, but the budget she proposed hit everything we asked. I might not appreciate every aspect of it, and certainly I drive on these roads, I know they're horrible, but we have to give and take and work with them. I know that the time and effort put in meeting with department heads and understanding their asks goes a lot deeper than me reading a spreadsheet, but the narrative certainly helps, and we have that understanding. Again, not against it, having further conversation, but at this point, I think we do transmit it and maybe get clearer on our instructions for the next budget, and maybe say, look, we don't want to fund this, or we want to fund this higher, or we expect to see X, Y, and Z, and what can we do? So I think at this point, almost every ask was made, whether I agree with everything in there. I'm not looking to hold up the conversations, and we'll certainly have more meetings, and we can certainly join the Finance Committee and see what they're having discussions about.
Thank you. I have a couple of comments. I don't believe the school committee or the school superintendent had to cut anything. You mentioned cutting $60,000. The information we received was that there were alternate revenue sources that were found for that. So I just want to make sure that goes out there, too. Not necessary. You might say it's a cut, but it's not what we heard. Second, our town manager her job is to work on the budget, to sit with the department heads, all of whom report to her, and looking at the big picture, and keeping in mind the guidelines that we've set, but come to an agreement on the budget. She knows what the big picture is, she knows what the revenue sources are, and she can weigh things out from one department to another as she meets with all the department heads. And you mentioned too, Todd, where in the charter does it say that we get to do that?
It's in the bylaw. So it's bylaw 3.06, parentheses 1. It says that by the first week in, do you have the bylaws there?
I think yeah.
Go to page 8.
Yep,
Just borrow it real quick.
yeah, no, that's all right, I
Okay,
can get
go
to
to page
page
8.
8. Yep,
So, let's see. No, you're not. This isn't the bylaw.
this isn't this is the charter.
This is the charter, right.
Oh,
So
all
the
right, so the bylaw?
Yes, the
Okay.
bylaw provides language that I think I had sent to all of you in advance of this meeting that says that by the first week in March, recommendations from both the town manager and the select board must be transmitted to the finance committee. It's double, it's not recommendation, it's recommendations from the town manager and the select board. So it provides, and I understand that it has not been acted upon. However, the bylaw is clear that we do have the authority to send a separate recommendation if we disagree. I don't disagree that the town manager is in charge of the day-to-day. I don't disagree that her job is to put together the budget, but I do disagree that the select board is simply a pass-through. We also are elected and have an obligation to review the budget, to ask questions, and if we disagree on the recommendations, then to put forward a different recommendation. But I go back to exactly what I said. If I'm the only member that wants to do that tonight, I won't do it.
I think that's a good idea not to do it. It's 9:15 after a long meeting, and I think the questions that you're bringing up require a lot more thought and a lot more discussion. So, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion that we transmit the budget to the Finance Committee as outlined in the charter and bylaws.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
All right, we received minutes. Does anyone have any questions about the minutes?
I didn't have a chance to review them, but if nobody has any corrections, that's absolutely fine by me.
Okay, so the minutes can be accepted as read. When is our next meeting?
March 9th.
March 9th, okay. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No.